why GDG is a very interesting developer community.
I'm glad somebody has asked this question.
This is where the magic happens.
This is primarily a question and answer show. So if any of you ask,
GDG is a very interesting developer community.
I'm glad somebody has asked this question.
This is where the magic happens.
this is primarily a question and answer show. So if any of you out there would like to ask questions.
Good afternoon, New York City. Morning if you're somewhere else. Late night if you're really far away. Welcome to AppScript Office Hours. My name is Ikai and Jan.
I'm Jan Kleiner.
And today we have a good show for you. Well, it's pretty straightforward. We don't have any special, there's nothing special going on today. But I do want to announce events that are coming up. Next week we've got our Austin Hackathon. So if you're not yet signed up and you're in the Austin area, go on Google and search for AppScript Hackathon Austin. It's going to be one of the first results. We've still got spots. We need you to sign up because we're ordering food and there's going to be fun activities. So for those of you that are not in Austin, we are planning a West Coast Hackathon that's coming sometime in November. We'll be posting as soon as we have the details. So we're still working on that, but we hope to see you at that event soon. So yeah, that's what I have for announcements.
Okay. Next, I think we're going to go over release notes. We had a release late last week, and I'll just run through what happened there. So, and this was a release from the evening of August 30th. So we added some new methods to script properties and user properties. This is a feature request that quite a few people had asked for, to be able to basically delete properties and keys from script properties and user properties. So we've added those methods. We also added several other methods to do things like delete all properties, bulk set properties, things like that. So it's a lot more robust of an API now.
This is a really big deal because I know that before I was doing set as null and undefined, and that became really ugly really fast because you couldn't delete the properties, and then there was some weird, it caused a lot of weird programming issues.
And you could run up against your quotas that way too. So it's a much more usable interface now. We also added a set option method. This is for the charts service, so that all of the different charts builders can now set advanced options for charts. I think this came about because somebody specifically wanted to be able to set multiple axes on the charts, but now with this set option you can do a whole lot more than that. So there's links to the docs from the release notes. And then finally we fixed an issue. This was just kind of a minor issue with the script editor, where if you had a really long line somewhere in your script and you scroll to the right, the line numbers would disappear. So that's fixed now too, which makes it a little easier to debug your code if you have really long lines in your script. So those are our release notes for the week.
I want to remind people that a few weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we rolled out a streamlined interface for publishing to the Chrome Web Store. So we have the script gallery now, and it's where you'd want to go if you want to publish scripts for, say, spreadsheets and whatnot. But if you're starting to build web apps and full apps that have UI, you really should be publishing them to the Chrome Web Store for much more discoverability. So I will be plugging this week after week after week until we start seeing more applications. And if you need any help, do come to Stack Overflow and ask us for help. Or if you run into any problems, come to the Issues Tracker and tell us, where your troubles are publishing and why you're not doing it and how we can help make this easier for you.
Yeah, we are starting to see some really interesting things come into the Chrome Web Store that were built with AppScript, so it's very exciting. Okay, so that's it for release notes. Before we take live questions, we have a lot of questions here actually on the moderator page, which you can see linked from the Google Developers Live show listing for today. So what do you say, Ikai? Do you want to just take these in order?
What order do you want to do these in?
All right, well, let's just start at the top. So I'll take this one first. So the first question here, their time frame for adding the rest of the UI app widgets to the GUI builder. So I see that, I guess there was a comment from when the GUI builder was launching saying that we could expect the rest of the widgets to come shortly. I'm not actually sure about those plans. I know that we've added some of the widgets over time, but I don't have a specific roadmap on when, if the rest of the widgets will be added. We can try to follow up on that for you, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. I'm using content service to create a web service that uses the Gmail API to access mail. Can you explain the process for how the user will authorize the web service script to access their email account? The web service has no direct user interface. So for everyone that's watching right now, content service is a way to provide API-like access to your script. So let's say you want to put out JSON or XML or some other crazy format. You would be using content service instead of HTML service. Now, the problem with content service is that because it's not expected to be used inside a browser, you don't really have a way to authorize access to user data, such as the Gmail service. So I know we're working on a solution. We have nothing to announce at this point, but we are working on a solution so you will be able to build content service applications that users can authorize.
Right. So the way that it works today, it is possible if you publish this. So when you go in and you've built this and you have to go through the publish as a web app workflow, if you publish it to run as the developer, so as you, the script developer, you can authorize it that way and that'll work. But obviously if you're using something like Gmail, you don't want it to run against your inbox. You want it to run against the user's inboxes, and there's not a particularly straightforward way of doing that today. So we were talking about this morning, and we have some plans in place to support that in the future, but we can't get into the specifics yet. But for sure it will be in the documentation once we have it available. Okay, the next one here, contacts app.getContacts is running slow for this person here. So we actually have an issue in the tracker open. I've linked to it in the response here that's dealing with the performance issues for getContact. We're looking into that, but you can follow the status of that issue in the issue tracker. We're aware that there's some performance issues there.
Okay, I noticed that Jan set me up to take this next one. This one's actually really confusing. I don't want to read it out, but I'll read it out. It says, to build a UI, I use both command lines in the script and use GUI builders. So it goes on a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what this is asking. Let me open it up to see if there's any, clarifications.
I don't think so.
How to extend GUI apps. Yeah, I'm not even sure if that's what he's asking. So why don't I move on to the next one, which is there a way to password protect the app script attached to a spreadsheet? The requirements is that when we share the spreadsheet to others in the company, we don't want the app script visible to others. Now, one way to do this is to create code, and Jan answered this, so I'm really just taking credit for her work. Create the code in a separate project, and what you can do is when you publish a version, there will be inside project properties it's a script key, a project key. Now, what you can do is later on in a different project, you can import your important functions. You can say, I want to import a library and copy the script key in. So you copy paste that script key in, and what you'll need to do is you'll need to provide a prefix. So like let's say I build a library that has a function called hi, and I call the library my cool library. I would save this, publish a version, let's say version 1, version 2, whatever, and I would get a project key. I would create a second project, and I would import it and I would namespace it. So in my code, I would write something like mycoollibrary.hi. Everything would be namespaced and prefixed. So in this case, you wouldn't have to share the code, and this would work.
Right. So the spreadsheet or the project that you want to import the library into which you want to import the library will have to have at least view access to that library, but the users of the spreadsheet aren't going to have that library available to them. So you can use it within the spreadsheet script, but it's not visible to the users when they go and look at the script of the spreadsheet itself. So that's a good way of doing this. But specifically what you asked for to be able to password protect the scripts, we don't have that today. I think there is actually something in the issue tracker for basically being able to lock down, not show the source of scripts, but that's an open feature request. It's not something we have available today. Okay. All right, next one here, and this one I haven't actually read through yet, so we'll take a look on the fly. So I'm learning to display data, table options, grid, flex table, HTML, and others. One record per page with next and back. Any options? Okay, so this sounds like a question about some of the different ways to display data, probably mostly within UI app, it sounds like, if we're looking at grid and flex table. It really is going to depend on your use case, so specifically what you're trying to do and what features you need to be supported to deal with your data. And So if you can provide us, if you can post a response here, we'll take a look later and see if we can give you more guidance on that. But without knowing like what sort of data it is, how much you have, how you want to interact with it, it's a little tricky to make a across the board recommendation. I would say if you're bent on using UI app, that's one thing, but if you're willing to use HTML service, then it's pretty wide open and you can kind of build whatever you want. And there's a lot of, pre-made solutions out there that might work for you that other people have built that many of them will be compatible with HTML service. So that might be the more flexible way to go, even though it's not going to be necessarily as out of the box as some of the UI app widgets. There may be stuff in jQuery UI, for example, that would work well.
The jQuery UI stuff is pretty basic. So there's probably stuff built on top of jQuery UI, but we need to go look for it, need to test it before it work. One thing that's really nice about spreadsheets is that, they are a built-in UI for your application. So depending on what it is you're trying to do, sometimes I find that if I'm replicating too much spreadsheet functionality, one thing that I might do is I might just use the spreadsheet as input and build a custom menu instead. So again, it really depends on what it is you're trying to do, but I feel like you have a lot of options. Okay. I'll go on to the next one. I have a custom function in my app script. How can I access it whenever I open a new spreadsheet without publishing it in the gallery? Well, one thing that you could do is you could create a template that has the spreadsheet, and every time you create a new spreadsheet, you can clone the spreadsheet and you'll pick up the function. Other than that, you have the the script library option, which is a little bit clunky. I just feel like you want global access to this. Anything else comes to mind?
No, this is something that we've heard requested before, particularly within an organization that has a Google Apps account, to be able to kind of have an admin install scripts across an account. It's not something we support today, but I do believe there's something in the issue tracker, a feature request for that. But yeah, what you mentioned with the templates is a really good option too. Okay, so the next one here. So when we publish a spreadsheet as a web app, how can we make a particular cell or multiple cells editable in the HTML page? So I think this one, if I'm understanding correctly, is not actually an app script question. So Google Spreadsheets has an option in the sharing settings to publish a spreadsheet as a web page, which makes it publicly viewable, and it's no longer really an interactive spreadsheet. It's kind of this read-only view. So I'm not especially familiar with what you can and can't do in that view of a spreadsheet, but I imagine that if you go to the help pages for spreadsheets, if this is possible, they'll explain how to do it there.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's all we've got. Let me just refresh here and double check. And then, if there's nothing else new, here's one more.
This is not an app script question.
This last one here.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm not sure which Google app this person is referring to. If you mean, can you build something with Google Apps Script and use it and like display it publicly? I believe so. But if you're asking something else, maybe clarify the question so we can take a look.
Right.
Also, if your question is more around like the terms of use for AppScript, then there's a link to the developer terms from our documentation page, so you can read through it there and see if that covers your question as well. Okay, do we have anybody live in the Hangout that wants to ask a question?
Hey guys, I see we have some regulars and we have a new person who I haven't seen before. So before we get started, I just want to put this on your radar, which is we're thinking about people that we want to do some. Ooh, yikes! We're thinking about doing some live interviews of some team members. Now I've asked Saurabh, who is the product manager for Google Apps Script, and he said, "Oh no, people have seen me too much. They don't want to see me anymore." And I said, "That's not true. We want to interview. We want to see what you're about, who you are." So I'm still going to try to rope him in. But if there's anyone on the team that you guys think might be interesting, I think it'd be interesting to have a conversation with Nikhil, who's a TL, or Mike, who is the Uber TL? That's the way I've heard him referred to. Or just individual software engineers on the team working on different things. Like Corey's given talks at Google I/O, and there's he always has a lot to say, actually. It's more about narrowing the scope of things for him to say. So if you guys have anyone that you would like to see interviewed, do let us know. Anyway, all right, live audience, have at it.
Any questions from you guys today?
Anything you guys want to talk about?
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you great.
Cool, thanks. I have one quick question. I've got I'm really excited. I've got a web app that I'm just having my graphic designer pretty up the UI and some icons and stuff for the Chrome Web Store. And I'm thinking a little bit about, I'll probably post it for free, publish it for free at this point, but I was thinking about monetization options.
Mm-hmm.
One option, sell it for 99 cents or something like that. And then I was thinking, what I'd really like to be able to do is link my AdSense account to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any talk or has there been any discussion around about having sort of an AdSense service? I tried that through a couple of things, and the AdSense JavaScript got stripped out.
It did. Okay.
Didn't seem to be able to publish it.
Okay.
Is your app using
Is there-
HTML service?
No, UI app.
UI app. Okay.
I tried to use the HTML within it.
Let's see.
What I'd like to be able to do is I was thinking it would be good. It's it'll run in a browser. It's not an extension. It's a
Mhm.
it's a
Right.
UI, and it works with Google Docs. So it's kind of timely and cool. But I was thinking that one way to monetize it would be to have a AdSense panel within the UI app.
Mhm.
But I can't see any easy way to do that at this
Yeah.
point.
I
Any
don't-
thoughts, comments?
I think you're right that it's probably not possible within UI app, and I haven't actually tried it in HTML service. It's possible that it would work there. I'll have to check. There may be some tricky things that we'd have to sort out first. But I think it's a very good request that we can take
Right.
back to the team. And,
Issue
certainly with
tracker
web apps,
material?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Issue tracker material?
Absolutely, for sure.
I do have a question for you, though. Now, you mentioned that you might want to sell the app.
Yeah.
So, Jan, do you have any updates about the Chrome Web Store and being able to do that?
So we're still working through some of the details on that. So technically, yes, it's possible. The challenge that we have today is we don't have a simple way for you to then, so the Chrome Web Store has a licensing API where you can, so it's possible to sell an app today, say 99 cents, whatever you choose, and people can purchase the app, but then what we don't have is the round trip with the licensing server to be able to query, for this user, from your app, for this user, have they purchased the app? So it's not the full round trip solution today. So you kind of have there's a gap there, basically. And we're aware of it, and we're working on solving that in the future so that you can have the reassurance, basically, that and check on, and that's especially important for things like free trials or recurring subscriptions and things like that.
So have you used AdSense before? I'm asking because for application, for things that are more application-like, and Jan has this famous presentation from when she was on the Chrome team about the difference between an application and a web page. AdSense may not be your best bet, only because unless you're getting a huge volume, it might not be enough to cover your costs, which is one reason that selling the application in the Chrome Web Store when we get that up might be a very good option.
It may also depend on the amount of textual content that's
true.
in your app as well. So you probably know the answer to that one better than we can guess. But yeah, and it may also be the kind of thing, once we have the solutions totally worked out for both sides of them, that you do kind of like an A/B test sort of thing and see what works best for your particular web app.
Right.
Yeah, mostly it's going to be, it's for promotion, and it's really solving a problem that I've seen people ask fixed for Google Docs. So it's just kind of,
Okay.
I don't expect it to have a long lifespan. In fact, any day, I would imagine the Google Docs team will announce something that'll do the same thing. But until then, and there is some context to it that might make AdSense kind of particularly interesting to certain types of vendors. So
Okay.
Interesting.
anyway, I was just wondering if yeah, it is. It's an application, but people come back to it repeatedly, and there is some context to it that might make sense. So
Okay.
I'll throw that in the issue tracker.
Okay, great.
All right, any other live questions?
that is something that we're seeing a lot of usage for AppScript for, which is extending the functionality of apps and bridging a lot of different applications. This is one thing that Saurabh, the PM, was talking to me about, which is that we think that we're going to see a lot of very popular applications that kind of extend docs. So when you say that the docs team might go ahead and build this, there's also a very good chance that they might not, right? And that we decide that it's something which makes a lot more sense as a script or an extension, because it doesn't apply to, it applies to a small subset of users, right? So app scripts are really good for if you want to build something that's specific to a specific vertical, right?
And it's relatively quick and easy to build these things and tailor them to exactly how you want it to work, which is nice too, because everybody has their own preferences for how they want some of these extensions and things to work. So.
Right.
Well, when it's done, you'll take a look at it, and I think you'll see what I mean. That it's probably something that I would expect that the docs team will come out with. So.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're
Anyway.
certainly interested to check it out.
I'm hoping to have it by next week in the
Fantastic.
Chrome Web Store. We'll see how fast my designer goes.
Okay, definitely let us know.
Cool, we'll do. I think there looks like there's some stuff in the chat
Ah, okay. So we don't
on the Hangout.
actually have that visible at the moment.
We've got a.
We may be able to switch over to that possibly on
so
our
we've got
other screen.
We've got Eric producing. It's kind of Eric is normally in this chat, but he's kind of he's back
Is
there.
that why the
he's making all his
screen's a little
magic working.
crooked? The
Is it?
camera's a little crooked?
Is it?
Oh.
Are we?
Maybe
no.
we're crooked. It's
Yeah,
possible.
maybe here. Let me fix myself right there. This is a shared studio.
tell him I
That's all I'm going to
said
say.
All right.
Don't tell him I said that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that is. So I can see the all caps comment that says, "Any news about Google Glass?" No, we don't have any news about Google Glass. I can't read it. I'm sorry.
Let me do this. Let me solve this.
We'll fix this technical problem in a
It looks
future
like
one.
actually now I'm looking at a question from a clarification on the one from the modifier.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Okay, so there's a lot of junk in here.
There is some junk too, yeah.
Let's see. Okay, he's asking, should you use the GUI builder or programmatically create an application using the program coding?
Oh, okay. Oh, whether to use UI app programmatically to build it versus GUI builder?
Right.
So I think that depends on a couple things. So GUI Builder is going to give you a subset of the functionality of UI app. So if GUI Builder can do everything that you want your user interface to do, then that is a kind of a quick way to get started without having to figure out, I want this panel to go here, and then having to style everything and come up with all the attributes yourself. So it can save you a lot of time. But if you want to use some of the more complex widgets that are not part of UI app, then basically your only choice is to write it all programmatically. You can mix and match the two, so you can start with kind of a basic template that you build in GUI Builder, and then as you load the component, then you can add things to it programmatically if you want to extend it or do things that you couldn't do straight out of the box. So I hope that's helpful.
Great. Eric, give us a thumbs up if there's anything that's not Google Glass related. We don't have any news about Google Glass. I'm sorry about that.
Wish we did. That would be cool if next week we were sitting here with the glasses on, but I don't think we're going to be.
He actually posted another question that said, not one or the other. The question is how to switch between the two tools on one UI, steps to do. I think
Okay.
it sounds like he wants to build some of it in the GUI and then build some of it, add on to it with script.
So I think we have, I think we have an example of how to do this somewhere. What I'll do is I'll try to dig that up and post it as a response to the original question in the moderator page afterwards. I can't remember off the top of my head whether that is in the tutorial section or if it's something that we had in the old forum or Stack Overflow, but we do have some examples of how you can use the two together. Okay.
Okay. We've got someone else on the live hangout, so I wanted to. I'm sorry we haven't given you a chance to speak. Is there something you wanted to ask us or talk about?
Maybe just
Maybe
there
just
to
like
listen. That's
it's
cool.
just that's cool too.
All right. Well, I think that's actually all for me. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
We can
about
go
today?
back to bantering.
Or we could not.
Jan and Eric recently just moved. So they used to sit a little bit further from me, and they moved to right next to me. So now we are just literally within earshot, like all day long. So I think that they've had enough of me. That's what it is.
Not true. That's not true. But I think unless we have any more live questions, I think we might be just about out of stuff for today.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining us today.
All right, and we'll see you next week.
And again, Eric is in the background. He's running things. So a special thanks to Eric for powering us. All right.
All right, see you next week.